Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Loft Media again, and today I particularly want to talk about the CCC here in Queensland, the Crime and Corruption Commission, and also the Parliamentary Crime and Corruption Commission, and I'll explain that. And I also want to talk about COVID mandates, which is a real hot topic as the bluffing Queensland state government continues to try to push these vaccinations on some people that are adamantly saying they're not going to receive the vaccinations. So let's just go back to a bit of history. Here on Loft Media, ever since my time in jail and my enforced retreat there, we have been pushing about democracy in Queensland, and let the truth be told and let truth be heard, because the truth sets you free. So finally, after a few years down the track, the CCC, which is the one who goes about sort of nabbing people and throwing them into jail here in Queensland, has had a report done on them by the PCCC, which is the Parliamentary Commission. So the CCC answers to the Parliament of Queensland. There was an inquiry done into the Logan Council absolute disaster where councillors were sacked, mayor was sacked, and then the charges were all dropped 2 years later. So people lost their reputations, lost their income, absolute disaster for people when there's no substantiation by the CCC. And of course, with the inquiry now finished and a report has just been lodged, and you can go to the Queensland Government Parliament site and look that up, and if you're into it you can read the transcript of the Commission, and I'll share a little bit about that. But basically it is an absolute damning report on the way the CCC runs their business, the culture there, and also it's a huge broadside against the boss, Mr. Alan McSporran, who is currently resisting resigning after this damning parliamentary report. I'll just read a summary of the news. It's through in Queensland, this particular report. And I'd just like you to note our local politicians, Bruce Saunders and Adrian Tantari, both people I don't hold in any regard. Adrian Tantari used to work for the Department of Local Government, and he basically wrote a lot of the letters for the minister. So that just gives you a bit of a background for the Minister of Local Government. So that's why when I was on council I used to be amazed how come newspapers and state government know more about what was going on in council than we as the mayor, myself as the mayor, and also councillors. And Adrian Tantari, it will come out because it's all coming to the surface now, and I know, and also for Bruce, I've heard a startling allegation during the week about a group of people who will be putting the heat on Bruce very, very shortly for some of his bullying tactics over them. It is a criminal offence to be bullying in regards to the political area. Now, I'll just leave that as it is and watch this space. So both Bruce and Adrian Tantari, when this CCC report came out, they were more interested in a new shopping centre being opened or anything else. So it is a ploy to defer when there's a big bad news item comes out to take the media, main media, because they're just led by sheep. They just go off and they'll look at a new building or the tide coming in and the tide going out in Harvey Bay. But so they steered away main media from inquiring more into the PCC report. So I'd also like you to know that Adrian Tantari, a first-time politician, was put onto that PCC panel, and during the course of this investigation he was either removed from the panel or he resigned from the panel. We can't get an answer on that yet. It'd be interesting if Adrian would share as to why he was taken off the PCC. I think there might have been a conflict of interest. That's my personal view. But once again, it'd be great to hear from Adrian Tantari. But I don't think we will hear from him about that. So here's a from In Queensland, from the Journalist, about their report. The head of Queensland's anti-corruption watchdog is defying calls for him to stand down in the wake of a damning parliamentary report on the mishandling of a fraud probe into the Logan City Council. In a massive blow to the Crime and Corruption Commission's credibility, its own Parliamentary Oversight Committee found it breached its duty and overstepped its powers in slapping 8 Logan councillors with fraud charges that were later dropped. The Local Government Association of Queensland has called on the CCC Chair, Alan McSporran, to stand down as a means of restoring confidence in the Commission. However, the CCC has issued a statement saying Mr McSporran will continue to lead the organisation. The statement said the body looks forward to an ongoing and productive relationship with the Parliamentary Crime and Corruption Committee as it continues to independently combat major crime and reduce corruption for the benefit of the Queensland community. It's hard for me to read this sort of stuff. The LGAQ President and Sunshine Coast Mayor Mark Jamieson insisted the former Logan councillors whose careers were cut short by the CCC's actions deserved a public apology and compensation. Not so for Mr McSporran. Ho-hum, people lose their job, no case to answer. It is really an emotionless, unbelievable approach to justice in Queensland. The bipartisan parliamentary committee found that the CCC had breached its proper duty in pursuing the councillors. In a scathing assessment of the body's conduct, the committee found Mr McSporran failed to ensure the Commission acted impartially and independently. Just hear these words. While it stopped short of recommending McSporran to be sacked, it said his failure was serious and reflects poorly on the Crime and Corruption Commission. Mayor Jamieson said the only way for the CCC to move forward and win back public confidence was with the exit of Mr McSporran and swift action by the Palaszczuk government to reform the body. For your own knowledge, the ALP outnumber the LNP on the PCC. So that's why I think that Mr McSporran has saved his job for now. He said the CCC's behaviour in the Logan matter was a serious blight on its integrity and that change must now start, and from the top. The public must have confidence in institutions like the CCC in order for it to properly fulfil its role. We therefore call on the CCC Chair to act in the interests of the future of this important institution and stand down from the role. Swift action must also be taken by the state government to overhaul the structure and senior ranks of the corruption watchdog to restore its reputation and ensure this never happens again. Secretary of the powerful CFMEU union, Michael Ravbar, also called on McSporran to resign, saying the Commission under his chairmanship had totally lost its way. As the committee report so starkly highlights, fiascos such as the botched Logan Council fraud case, along with a string of other debacles, demonstrate the CCC is operating well beyond its brief and without fairness or impartiality. True words said by Mr Ravbar. Without fairness or impartiality. He said he supported the committee recommendation the government order a royal commission into the Commission. Let me just pause there. Senator Malcolm Roberts, back a few months ago now, went to the federal government and asked for basically a royal commission or a Senate inquiry into the affairs of local governments in Queensland. Senator Roberts has information that needs to get out, and he was wanting that put through the federal government, knowing that the state government will not really want a lot of this stuff come to the top. So Senator Roberts was knocked back, but he is a dogged man, and I'm sure at some stage he's going to bring that forward again in the federal. And as this report locally calls for a royal commission, I personally would love a royal commission into the CCC and the way it dealt with the corruption complaints that councillors and myself gave to the CCC back when I was the mayor. And they were all, we've never heard back. So they're, to me, they're files that no action on. The report followed the committee's inquiry into the laying, beg your pardon. So committee chair, LNP Mayor John Craws said, serious findings have been made about the CCC's conduct, saying the Commission had failed in the role entrusted to it by this Parliament on behalf of Queenslanders. It's fairly straightforward. There's no innuendos here. It's just the CCC has failed. The committee inquiry followed complaints by the Local Government Association that the CCC had not acted impartially in its probe of the Logan Council and had interfered in an Industrial Relations Commission case involving Ms Kelsey's dismissal. Ms Kelsey was the CEO of the Logan Council. The PCC reports, and they delved quite deeply into this, was the improper behaviour by Mr McSporran in regards to Ms Kelsey's sacking. And you need to read further into the report, but it's mind-blowing how some public servant can use his influence to try to get another public servant reinstated apart from the councillors who are the democratically elected people. So a public servant, my reading is, can sack the elected democratic people of the Logan Council, and he can then decide to push for the reinstatement of another public servant. Do you see how out of order the CCC is? It has no regard for the democracy that really was here in Queensland. I can say it's still just flickering, and finally many more people are waking up to the wickedness that is in this Queensland state government, and it's linked to the CCC and the corruption within the CCC. It makes the Times back in Joh Bjelke-Petersen days and the Fitzgerald inquiry look like a tea party compared to what's going on now. I'll get back to the report. It found that the CCC improperly inferred Kelsey's unfair dismissal claim before the QIRC, including making documents it had seized from the council available to her lawyers. The committee notes that an inference could be drawn that this was done for the purpose of Miss Kelsey's reinstatement as CEO, Mr Craws told Parliament. He said the committee found the CCC's decision to charge the Logan councillors with fraud was affected by a desire to assist Miss Kelsey and blamed the Commission for the charges being miscarried. It probably doesn't need to be pointed out the decision to charge is what caused the majority of councillors to be removed from the office, the Logan City Council to be dissolved and an administrator appointed. Craws indicated to Parliament he had been pressured to go easy on the CCC in the committee's inquiry. I'll just say that again. The chair indicated to Parliament he had been pressured to go easy on the CCC. I'll come back to that shortly. During the course of this inquiry, a number of people on various different occasions have cautioned me about pushing too hard inquiring to the CCC, he said. So there's people who think they have more authority than the chair of the PCC within the state government, pressuring that chair. You just be careful, mate. You just be careful about how far you inquire into the Triple C. What have they got to hide? I'll bring back when Bruce Saunders was in Parliament. I mean, Bruce, who's proud to be a union thug, and he has intimidated many people in this area, and I don't mind repeating that. Bruce has intimidated many people in this area. Bruce is, and the people that hang around Bruce is the state government, members of Parliament, high up. That's the mentality of these people. Birds of a feather flock together. So bullies hang around bullies until they're bullied. But so here it is. On various different occasions, they cautioned Mr. Craws about pushing too hard inquiring into the CCC. It was put across that this could have consequences. The fact that these matters were even raised with me in the consciousness of the people interested in these matters, and they would say those things to me, are highly concerning. Do you get the pressure being put on? So who would be doing that? I think names need to be broadcasted. And Bruce Saunders, our local MP, who truth and lies should never be Bruce and lies sit comfortably together. But Bruce was also the Member of Parliament who called in Parliament Ted Sorensen a dog. We're ruled by bullies here in Queensland, but their day is coming to an end, I pray. It speaks to the perception of how the CCC goes about its business. Some of the problems identified in this report can be addressed through legislative changes, but others require a change of approach from within the CCC, Craws wrote in the tabled report. That is why the committee has made recommendations that speak to the need for the CCC to engage in a cultural change. Attorney General Shannon Fentinen said there were many concerning aspects of the Commission probe. She said McSporran's future in the role was up to the Parliament and not the government. After a huge report, millions of dollars, Attorney General Shannon Fentinen, and can I tell you, I wonder how someone so young can be appointed the Attorney General. My experience is general in the armies is usually at least 50-year-olds and above, because you need to be a seasoned, experienced person and handle lots of battles. But here's a relatively young lady appointed our Attorney General. And her comments were, there's many concerning aspects of the Commission probe. So that's on the Triple C, and if you're wanting to read the transcripts, if you want to really get into it, particularly at point 3972 is when Mr. Craws says about his concerns that were raised in the inquiry. It's right near the end of his documents, but if you want that verified, there it is, about the pressure put on him and from various people as to don't delve too far into the Triple C or something might happen to you. It's a wonderful government. So, as we launch into from that space, or just before I do hit the mandates, it was just before that report came out, there was another smack against the Crime and Corruption Commission. And this is a report by Vanessa Marsh in the Courier Mail. 12th of July. So this was well before the report. That's 30th of November. This is 12th of July. And it was just one that I've come across. It's Triple C. It's once again come under fire after a district court judge said it appeared the watchdog's involvement in a police investigation was unjustifiable and bordered on scandalous. So this is a district court judge. Pre-trial judgment in a pre-trial judgment handed down on Friday, the district court judge Brad Farr took aim at the Triple C in relation to its involvement in a police investigation. The involvement is understood to relate to the use of a star chamber hearing to gather evidence against the defendant in a police matter. Whilst the involvement of the CCC in that way on the face of it appears unjustifiable, bordering on scandalous, it is nevertheless of no continuing relevance to this matter given that the Crown does not intend to lead any evidence obtained as a consequence, Judge Farr wrote. It's the latest blow for the embattled Triple C, which has come under fire for a series of collapsed high-profile court cases brought by the watchdog. On Tuesday, a Townsville magistrate ruled there was insufficient evidence against former Palm Island Mayor Alf Lacey in relation to a fraud charge brought against him by the CCC. Mr Lacey was last year charged with a fraud exceeding $100,000 following a CCC probe, but the charge was dismissed by the magistrate this week. So these are the people that are handling the corruption within Queensland, and a damning report by the PCC, and let's just watch this space. Will things change? I hope so. Okay, so we're now on to the COVID mandates and this mess that has been generated in our economy, the chaos that from the COVID crisis, which going back, I've just reflected, you know, it was originally just to flatten the curve, and then one vaccine will solve the problem, and then it's two vaccines. Now it's two vaccines and a booster, and you'll probably need more boosters. And the vaccines don't stop you getting COVID. So this is really, it's a game that's just ongoing that the government is playing about increasing fear in people. It's confusion, fear, and that's the tactic within the chaos that this government has produced. So no one can deny the chaos that is around. Now, there's two ways of looking at life, chaotic or order, and this is not leading to order. Now, drilling down, the mandates now, there's come to a point, December 17 is a magic day here in Queensland that apparently you're going to be treated like a leper or a Jew, like as in Hitler times, you know, you'll be ostracised, and the government is saying, how dare you, you know, we're going to search you out if you haven't had the vaccinations. All these sorts of threats come in a democracy, so you have no choice if the government had their way, and now the government wants to inflict the vaccines experiment onto little ones down to 5-year-olds. I mean, what are the consequences on the 5-year-old? What were the tests that have been done, I wonder, on the 5-year-olds so far? No tests, nothing. We'll run the guinea pig gauntlet as they go. But so these mandates, now it's starting to get into the legal side. There's tens of thousands of lawyers and doctors worldwide now starting to go, hello, let's push the pause button here for a while. This is not going as well as we thought. and also it's an invasion of people's privacies. And I'm told the Nuremberg trials, here we go, repeat, here we go. And these lawyers are now taking a lot of interest in bringing all these things of the enforced injections to people who have not really seriously contemplated this. And now there's coercion, which is illegal, to have people injected with the vaccines to keep your job. That's it in summary. BHP, their vaccine mandate was rejected by the Fair Work Commission. Mining giant BHP's attempt to require all staff at a massive coal mine in New South Wales, Hunter Valley, to be vaccinated against COVID has been rejected by the National Industrial Tribunal in a blow to private sector jab mandates. Now, this is an article by Nick Boney-Hady in the Sydney Morning Herald on December 3rd. The Fair Work Commission found BHP had failed to properly consult its staff, including by giving them access to data, and therefore could not show that its mandate was reasonable. The article goes on. BHP is the first Australian company to have its vaccine mandate overturned. While the decision doesn't invalidate any other company's policies, but it does suggest that they are vulnerable if consultation has not been thorough enough and open to the challenge on a case-by-case basis. So that's the guts of it. If your employer is insisting that you have to have the injection to keep your job, the Fair Work Commission in Australia has just rejected that mandate for BHP. So that's a forerunner. So I think any business or organisation, private schools, whatever, they need to be extremely careful that they're not opening themselves up to so much legal abuse later on. I mean, we're talking tens of millions of dollars potentially, and this is all about a mandate that a government has pushed down to the private employers. They're not taking responsibility. The two levels of government are not taking responsibility, but they're pushing it down to the lower level, which is the business area of Australia, which is what the country runs on, is small businesses in Australia. That's what the economy runs on. That's how all public servants and politicians get paid, is by people doing real jobs, earning their money, paying their taxes, and the taxes go to the federal, the state, and to a lesser degree the local councils. So I'm saying for employers and small business, just be very wary. So just locally wise then, here in the Fraser Coast, and it goes for anywhere in Queensland really, you could look up FraserCoastRallies.com. That's all one word, Fraser Coast Rallies, RALLIES.com. And they're a local group of people who are really getting a wriggle along now in regards to the awareness of the freedoms of people has just been stomped on by the state government here and federal government for that matter. So the local state government representatives here is Bruce Saunders and Adrian Tantari, and I know that they're getting an increasing number of people at their door, and they're not liking what is coming out. They're not liking democracy knocking on their door. And I know I've heard of a terrible offence that came from Bruce Saunders' office here in Maryborough recently, and I'm sure that's probably where it will turn, no doubt, into a police matter, and I hope that the police just don't come under the instruction of Bruce trying to bully them. I'm sure that there are an increasing number of genuine policemen here locally and in Queensland who are going, enough is enough. I didn't join the force to inflict this sort of harm to our community. The police are about protecting the community. not harming the community. And I call on our local policemen to stand tall. I also call on our local health workers and our local teachers. Stand by your personal convictions. Don't be bullied to do things that you know in your heart and in your conscience you know is not the right thing to do. Hold firm. Light is coming. There is the darkness of all this COVID stuff and the state government and the corruption within the government of Queensland in particular. Light is starting to penetrate into it, and the darkness will flee as more and more people stand in truth and for the democracy of Queensland. Communism was defeated here in Australia back in the early 1950s, but it's forever trying to attack the fabric of our society. And the Red Shirt Brigade, particularly here, they're straight out of the Communist Handbook. They're wanting chaos and not order. That's their desire, is more and more chaos. So a revolution, this is not a conspiracy. You can just see it. Step back for a bit, look at it, and you'll notice that there's the whistleblowers are basically the ones that are picked on first, but there are so many people starting to whistleblow or shed their light in this place, it can't stop. So I encourage you to look at Fraser Coast Rallies, that website. They're local people, and they've come up with some great material that has been thoroughly researched, and for teachers, for healthcare workers, and for anybody who's employed. Basically, they've got information in there. Go to it for Queensland education staff, and basically, I'll just read a little bit from it. As the pressure builds on you, 1, do not disclose your status to anyone, including the principals and the line managers. No casual conversations. If asked to ensure, you respond by saying, you respond that you are getting medical advice from your preferred GP, and if you're pressured, say that you've booked an appointment a few weeks away. Delay, don't deny. Delay, don't deny. And there's other very straightforward advice for you to keep. So the encouragement is to delay, don't deny. So that is within the Fraser Coast Rallies website. The other, if you're a private employer or a private employee that's being pressured, and I know that's building in our community, this is most important. A mandate is essentially just a request and has no official standing within the law. A mandate only truly comes into force when the person or business who is requested takes part agrees. So yes, the government response here is correct, but it's extremely dirty, but it's correct. The government is doing indirectly what it can't do directly, and is passing the legal buck onto businesses. Businesses can, of course, be sued under the law if they enforce any mandates which are contrary to law, as in actual legislation written in black and white. So everyone must be so careful. Mandates are essentially null and void if they are challenged in court, as they are only a request, a direction, a rule. They are not law. I say that again. They are not law. Also, if you receive a fine for not following a mandate, it can be challenged in court and will be thrown out as you technically haven't broken a law. This is all confirmed by a Queensland barrister, and this is some of the information. Be encouraged, folks. Be encouraged. There's also a great form on questions to be answered by your GP before you give an informed consent on the jab. It's just basic questions that you're asking your GP who's caring for you not the government is caring for you. Your GP is the one who has sworn an oath to care for you. He hasn't sworn an oath to the government. So these are various straightforward questions that your doctor should be able to answer, question answer, and that needs to be followed through with if you're definitely not keen on the vaccination. And there's an article by criminal lawyers, Silby Lawyers, and that just explains the Premier's announcement was the absence of a lawful health directive. And I'll just read part of that. This was just the 1st of December, so these are all very current. This is very current, very topical, and you will be now aware that the Premier announced on the 30th of November 2021 that all staff in correctional centres, schools and childcare centres, airports must receive a vaccine for COVID by the 17th of December. So far, this is simply a statement from the Premier. This is the way the Queensland state government works. They just imply these sorts of things and then they're waiting to see what the response will be from the community before they then try to legislate it or pass a law. So like her policy announcement that from the 17th of December, unvaccinated people will not be permitted to attend cafes, etc. This announcement appears to have been made without there being any health directive. It also did not appear to be as a result of a health advice and has not been immediately followed by an explanation from the CHO. That's the Chief Health Officer. And the issuance of a direction, which is what occurred under Dr. Young. Premier Palaszczuk has no lawful basis to decree vaccinations. The article goes on. Until such time as a directive is issued, we encourage anyone that has concerns about getting vaccinated not to believe they must comply and to get legal advice. Our legal view is that mandating any vaccination is unlawful and can be legally challenged by individuals who are aggrieved by it. That is, anyone who would not but for the coercions and threats of being vaccinated. This is Criminal Lawyers, Sibley Lawyers, issued on the 1st of December. So it is what to do next. You should seek legal advice if you wish to have assistance on what to do next. So this is the fight of your lives, and I just hope that you can stay the distance, stand firm. There is many people who are in the same mind as yourselves. If you're wondering what is really going on, so I think if you're starting to doubt about all these things, you just need to push a big pause button, stop reading the mainline media, start inquiring very broadly into the information about these vaccines and what's going on in the world. And I'll just conclude now that recently there was an SOS put out to the rest of the world about Australia by Reignite Democracy, great group based in Victoria, and Monica Smith. She was a lady who was arrested for inciting people to go to protests. Very level-headed lady, heart just is in the right spot, can't believe what's happened to her state in Victoria. So what she did was push out to countries around the world and saying, look what's happening in my town, in Melbourne. You know, Australia, to the rest of the world, Australia is a democracy of the land of the free. And I think it's an indication that the rising of the light from Australia is going out to other nations around the world, that they're starting to see what's really going on in Australia with the bashings by police. I mean, some of the footage is just horrific. It's just as bad as Tiananmen Square in China or the Hong Kong shocking videos that came came through about 15 months ago, and we thought this would never happen here in Australia. And here it is, it's happening in Victoria. I mean, by Dictator Dan, I mean, these people have sold their souls to something that's evil, as far as I'm concerned. So the light is shining. The other countries are starting to be aware. There's now European parliamentarians saying, my goodness me, I didn't know this was going on in Australia. We thought Australia was a free country. Democracy. No, it's been taken over by basically evil people in high places in government, and I don't mind calling things that are good and things that are evil. We have too many people pulling the power button, the evil button here in Australia. But good and the light will shine. Thanks till next time, stay strong.